Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Davy and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag and I am so excited. So I will show you guys all of the books I've been reading so far this year. I've had a really good reading year. This is only my second year getting back into reading a lot and I've read 20 books so far this year, so I'm really proud of myself. Had a goal to read 22 books for the whole year and I'm already at 20, so I'm definitely going to surpass that. So I look forward to seeing what else I read, but let's get into what I read so far this year. So I have my questions here, and the first question is, what is my favorite book I've read so far this year? And that would be Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I know, I'm joining the club. Everyone is obsessed with this book, and I totally see why. It was so good. For those of you that haven't heard anything about Fourth Wing, it takes place in this fantasy world, and it follows Violet, our main character, who is sent off to a ward college to become a dragon rider. Now, she has studied to become a scribe her whole life and live like a kind of docile, not docile, kind of like a relaxing, calm life. She has a lot of health conditions that are going on based off of the writer's experience with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and so I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. But she is sent off by her mother to become a dragon rider or die trying. She really does not have a choice in the matter, and her chances of dying are very high, honestly. So this book is just about her experience in the school, and it's like an enemies to lovers plotline. I love the romance and the dragons. I love the magic the dragons bring into the story. It is such an interesting magic system. I really enjoyed the whole plot. So I'd highly recommend picking up Fourth Wing if you can find it somewhere. I read it on Audible because I couldn't find a physical copy, so it's definitely available there if you can't find it, but it's a very good book. Highly would recommend. And now the second question is, what is my favorite sequel I've read so far this year? And that would have to be A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This book was so good. I just ate it up. I read it in 2 days. It was such a good reading experience. I don't want to get into the plot or anything because I don't want to spoil anything. It's obviously the second book in a series. And I will say, the first book is not that good. Once you read this book, it is so much better. So if you're reading A Court of Thorns and Roses and you're not sure about it, definitely power through until you get to this book. I promise it is totally worth it. And another sequel that I really enjoyed was Muse of Nightmares, which is the second book in Strange the Dreamer duology. I loved this book. I really like Laini Taylor's writing and her the worlds that she builds in her fantasy world, how they all connect is really cool, and I liked how that played a part in this book. And a new release that I haven't read yet, but I would like to, would be A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. I read Priory of the Orange Tree a couple weeks ago and really enjoyed her writing, so I'm hoping to pick up that book as well. My most anticipated release for the rest of the year is definitely Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, which is the second book in Fourth Wing. I am so excited to read this book. I cannot wait till November when it comes out. I'm also really looking forward to Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, which is her I think it's her adult debut novel. Her first adult novel. I don't know. Something like that. I think it's her first adult novel. So I'm really looking forward to reading that because I love her writing as well. And then my biggest disappointment was Chain of Thorns. Cassandra Clare's books usually really get me emotionally, and I'm usually surprised about what's happening in them. This book, I guessed the entire plot and was just very bored because I knew exactly what was going to happen, and things played out exactly how I thought they were. And there was no surprises, so I was a little bit disappointed with this giant book. I did annotate it, but definitely not my favorite. Now, my biggest surprise, I wasn't really sure how to take this question, so I took it as a book that surprised me that I liked it, and that is A Court of Silver Flames. Now, this is a 750-page book about Nesta, and I found Nesta pretty insufferable in the first couple books. I did not like her, and I was not excited to read a book that was just Nesta, but she won me over. This book was so good. Her character development is so rich. I really enjoyed it. If you have read A Court of Thorns and Roses series and haven't picked up this book yet, highly recommend trying it out. I listened to it on Audible and I listened to it really fast, and it was a really good time. I read it in a few days, and I find listening to stuff on Audible when they're really long makes it a little bit easier. I switch between physically reading it and listening to it because I do have some annotations in here. But yeah, this was a good surprise that I enjoyed it a lot. Now, my new favorite author is Rebecca Yarros for many reasons, but one of the big ones is because she actually has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a condition that I have. It's a connective tissue disorder that affects your joints and ligaments and all of the connective tissue in your body, and it makes it so it's like easier to get dislocations and subluxations and just injuries in general and like chronic pain. So it was really interesting to have an author bring that into her books with Fourth Wing, and I really enjoyed her writing style as a whole, but I liked knowing that she had an life experience similar to mine. I read some of her like Instagram posts about her experience with EDS, and I found them really interesting, and it's really cool to have an author that is writing about her experience with chronic illness. Now, a book crush. I couldn't really think of one like specifically, but if I needed to pick one, it would definitely be Ia Durian from The Priory of the Orange Tree. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. On the audiobook, it was pronounced Iad, so hopefully that's something close to how you say it. But I really enjoyed her character, and I just am a sucker for warrior women badasses with knives. I love watching her protect the queen and like all of her magic powers from the orange tree. So cool. I love Iad. Now, a book that made me cry, Lord of Shadows. This is the second book in the Dark Artifices series by Cassandra Clare, and this is my favorite Cassandra Clare series, and the end of this book literally destroys me every time. I reread it recently, and even though I knew it was coming, I was still an emotional mess. I was just so sad and like heartbroken over the ending of this book. For those of you that read it, you know what I'm talking about. Let's just say some shit goes down, and it is sad. So I cried a lot, but it was a good cry. Like, I was very attached to the character, so that makes for a good read. But yeah, that was definitely a cry-worthy book. I cried a lot of books, though. Now to switch it up, a book that made me really happy was Strange the Dreamer. Now, the world building in this book is so good. This follows Laszlo Strange, who is like a war orphan basically, and he doesn't have any family. He gets taken in by like monks, and then he grows up in a library, and he becomes obsessed with the city of Weep, which is like this city that was like basically wiped off the face of the earth and no one really remembers it, and he becomes obsessed with them, and he finally gets a chance to go see the city of Weep, and it's about his story with that. And that's all I'm going to say without giving any spoilers, but it is just such a good read. I loved the like different places that the book took place in, like the atmospheres. Even though it switches up a lot, it's very immersive, and the way that the dream magic works, so cool. Now, my most beautiful book, I chose Chain of Iron. I really like this cover. I love moths. It also has all my first like annotations. So the first time I was annotating a book was this book, and they're so funny and like large. I think it really just adds to the character. So this is my most beautiful book, I think. And then lastly, some books I would like to read the rest of the year. So I have Throne of Glass. I read Assassin's Blade a couple weeks ago, and I got hooked, so I'm excited to start reading Throne of Glass this month. And I have the first 3 books here, so I'm excited to read those. I'm also going to start reading Shatter Me on Hoopla. I got my public library card all set up, so I get free access to audiobooks now, and all of the Shatter Me series is on there, so I'm going to listen to that soon. And I'm also going to read Mistborn, I think probably in the fall. And I also really want to read A Serpent and the Wings of Night. I've heard that book hyped up all over the place, and I want to get on the train and read it because I want to see what it's all about. I've heard it's really good, and like kind of like, I've heard kind of like Hunger Games vibes or like ACOTAR kind of, I don't know. Heard good things. I want to try it out. But yeah, those are all the books that I've been reading. And I wanted to also talk about this briefly. This is my temperature blanket that I have made. I do a row every day that correlates with the highest temperature of the day in my city, and it's giant now. It's going to be the size of like a queen size bed comforter. I don't know why I made it so big. It is a huge project that I've been committed to, but I wanted to show it, and I thought it made a cool background. So yeah, I wanted to share with that, as well as a little mid-year wrap-up art project that I am working on and been putting a lot of hours into. I listen to audiobooks and crochet, and it's a really good time. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I would love to hear what book you're reading right now, or what your favorite book is so far this year. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!